Presently, I have pre-marked 14 exhibits. I'm going to start first with what has been pre-marked as People's Proposed 7. People's Proposed 7, and I've shown Ms. Love this already, is a certified conviction as it relates to Mr. Conley. And as the court is probably aware, it applies specifically to count 5. People move for admission of 7 pursuant to MCL 76611B, as well as Michigan Rules of Evidence regarding self-authentication and hearsay. I also anticipate, having already shown to Ms. Love that she was going to stipulate to that anyway, but to the extent that she didn't want to, we move for that.
All right, Ms. Love, any objection to the prior conviction coming in pursuant to preliminary examination purposes only under the stated stated MCLA rule?
I have no objection to that at all.
All right. So without objection, number 7 would be admitted.
And moving next to People's pre-marked exhibit or proposed exhibit 13 and 14. Each one of those are laboratory reports from the Michigan Department of State Police Forensic Laboratory. People's proposed 13 is lab report number LS 23-2205, record number 1. And People's proposed 14 is the same lab report number, but record number 2, pursuant to that same statute, 76611B. The people move for admission of those 2 exhibits.
Thank you. Any objection to exhibits 13 and 14 for purposes of preliminary examination only, pursuant to that is the lab report number on 1 and 2 for exhibits 13 and 14. Ms. Love.
I am more than happy to allow those to come in.
All right. So exhibits 13 and 14 are admitted pursuant to the MCLA court rule, MCLA statute pursuant to numbered 1 and 2. 7 and 13 and 14 are admitted.
Finally, Judge, is really more of a housekeeping and a record keeping matter. As the court is aware, the first grouping of charged co-defendants came before this court. I don't think it was fully a year ago, but I ran that preliminary examination, and it admitted, I think it was somewhere in the range of 28 exhibits. As I prepared for this afternoon, I was able to pull all of those previously admitted exhibits and those, and I brought with me the ones that I felt were necessary for today. In essence, what I'm saying is I am reusing some of the previously admitted exhibits, but I have restickered them, and I've shown Ms. Love instances in which I have restickered them. For instance, People's Exhibit 1 is the exact same People's 1 that I admitted the last time. Right. It does have 2 stickers on it. There are some exhibits that have 2 stickers. There are some exhibits that do not. So for instance, People 7, which we just addressed a moment ago, the conviction, that's brand new to this case. And there are some others that are new to this case. So I just wanted, as far as the housekeeping matter.
For the reason being why there's 2 stickers.
Correct. And
they're both dated.
They're all of which are dated. So it's clear, when or what exam the various exhibits were admitted during. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear for everybody, particularly this court, if you need to review them in any way. We don't have.
All right, and Ms. Sweet, you've had the opportunity to see those exhibits, and they're two marked stickers, but based on today's date, they're marked for today's date. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. With clarifying any ambiguity there, are the people ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. And then the only thing I would say is our first witness, Mr. Moore, as the court remembers, is in a wheelchair. The detective and I were already rearranging the court's furniture.
Right.
But what we'll have to have happen in order for Mr. Moore to make it to the witness box area, he's not going to be able to sit in the witness box, is essentially everybody behind this table, counsel table, is going to have to move out of the way, because the wheelchair does not fit through that
Right.
opening that is to your immediate left, Judge.
All right. So with that understanding, we'll make room for the witness to come forward and then make sure that the mic is able to pick up his voice as it was the last time.
Yes.
All right. All right. So you can call your first witness, and that would be
There's William
would
Moore.
be William Moore.
Yep.
All right.
Yes, Judge, thank you.
Little sound check to make sure that you can hear us.
The approach.
The one facing out is the approach, the one down is the witness. That's the one that's down is the one that.
So that one right there. Okay. So if you put that next to him, and then we'll do a little sound check just to make sure. All right, sir, go ahead and say your name for the record,
William Moore.
and please state your first name and your last name for the record.
William Moore.
Okay, last name spelled Moore.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, when you're ready to proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Moore, how are you? Good. Do you go by, I know we introduced you as William Moore. Do you go by a different name?
Trent.
Okay, if I call you Trent?
Yeah.
All right, Trent, I'm gonna draw your attention back to April 2023, okay? Remember where you were living on that day?
Yes.
Where were you living?
4220 Clinton Road.
Is that a house, apartment, or something else?
House.
Were you living there with?
My girlfriend,
What's your girlfriend's name?
Samantha.
Specifically, Trent, I want to draw your attention to the precise date of April 12th, 2023. Do you remember that specific day?
Yes.
Call what time on that day you arrived back home?
Not really.
Okay,
It was late or early in the morning.
okay. So if I were to say, you said early in the morning,
Yeah.
when you say early in the morning, has the sun come up yet?
No.
So it's still dark out.
Yes.
You recall where you were arriving from?
From house.
And how is it that you came back to your house on April 12th, 2023?
I drove.
What car were you driving back then?
Chevy and Impala.
Something happening after you arrived back home to your house, having driven your Impala back there?
Yes.
Tell the judge, please, what you remember happening, please.
A car pulling up behind me before I got out of the car.
You know how long after you arrived home that that vehicle,
Like a couple minutes.
do you recall what that vehicle looked like?
Black. That's not SUV, but like hatchback type car thing, like it was set in. Oh, I don't know what you call it, but the in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said hatchback, is it a sedan like your Impala or
No, like
sits higher, lower?
yeah,
Higher?
Yeah.
And you said it was black?
yes,
Were you expecting this vehicle?
no.
What were you doing inside of your car when this dark or black vehicle pulled in behind?
Getting ready to go inside.
Did there come a point where you made contact or individuals from that car made contact with you?
I got out of my car and walked back to the car that was just in,
Okay.
thinking of somebody else.
Okay.
That one just showed up.
Were you expecting,
No.
did you recognize that car in any way?
No.
Do you recall how many individuals you saw arrive in that vehicle that pulled behind you?
I'm not at the beginning of this.
Okay. Did there come a point where you later were able to figure out how many people were in that car?
Not until I was in it.
How many people ultimately were you able to figure out were in that car?
3.
Did there come a point where you were able to recognize anybody that emerged from that vehicle that pulled in behind you? Who did you recognize from that car? And you name identified a person named Ben Conley. And you met this person, Ben Conley, before?
Yes.
How many times do you think?
Just a couple.
Face to face?
Yes.
Would you recognize that person you name identified as Ben Conley if you saw
Yes.
him again? You see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Point him out and describe what he's wearing for me, please.
Blue.
And you've
sure.
motioned over to your left.
Yes.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that Mr. Moore has identified the defendant in this matter.
Any objection to the witness identifying the defendant for purposes of prelim, Ms. Love?
I have no objection, but I do just want to make clear that this is Benjamin Connolly Jr., not senior.
So the person you're talking about is the Ben Conley that you saw on that date.
Yes.
All right. With that understanding and clarification, the witness has identified the defendant for purposes of prelim. You may proceed, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you. And so you have now made contact with the defendant, Mr. Conley, at your residence on Pleasant Grove in the early morning hour of April 12th. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, your address on Pleasant Grove, is that in the city of Lansing,
Yes.
Ingham County, state of Michigan? Tell me what happened when you had contact with Mr. Conley and these two other individuals from this car.
One individual stayed in the car. And walked up to me. And we were talking about, I don't even remember what, and that's when another person came up walking behind him.
Okay.
And I seen a gun in Ben's pocket pointed towards me. So, and then he asked me,
You say he, who's he?
Ben, or he asked for something or told me to get in my car, one of the two, and then it was kind of the person came behind him and then sucker punched me a few times.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there for a second. So when you first made contact with Ben Conley, did you see a gun on it?
No.
There came a point where you did see a gun on Ben.
Yes.
Describe everything you remember about that.
He was holding it in his sweater pocket, pointed at me. It was, yeah, pocket.
Okay, so did you actually see the gun or did you see a bulge?
Yeah, no, it was silver.
I'm sorry?
Silver. I seen a silver pistol in the pocket.
Okay. And that was inside of his pocket?
Yes.
Did he ever take it out that you could see it?
Not at that time.
But at some point later?
Yes.
You said it was silver.
Yes.
Do you know if it was real?
I assume so.
Tell me everything that you remember about it that led you to believe it was a real gun.
I just didn't think you'd ever take one. I don't know.
Okay, is that
Nothing really. No details on why I thought it was.
okay? So what happens now? I think I stopped you where you got punched.
Yes.
Take me from that point for me.
So then I get pulled back to the car that pulled in, and by the second individual, and got thrown in the back seat. And then Ben was looking through my car, and then he came and got in the vehicle.
You say you're still talking about Ben. All right, so I'm going to back up. You get punched, and then you were put in the car that pulled behind you. And what part of that car?
Back seat.
And Ben was still at your car,
Yes.
your Impala.
Yes.
At some point later, Ben then re-enters the car that pulled behind you.
Correct.
remember Ben saying anything to you?
Not, not necessarily, it's just a bunch of, I don't know, commotion, cussing and.
Okay. Mr. Moore, your residence back in April of 2023, the Pleasant Grove, did you have any security cameras?
Yes,
Can you describe for the judge, please, sort of generally where those security cameras were on or at your residence for me, please?
on outside of the garage, pointed towards the driveway, and then there was one on the porch, pointed towards the.
I'm going to direct your attention, Mr. Moore, to the screen. That's the TV screen to your left. Do you see that?
Yes,
Do you recognize what's depicted on that TV screen?
yes,
And just for the record, I'm showing you some video that is on People's Proposed Exhibit 1. As part of this investigation, were you able to provide, or was video surveillance from your residence provided to law enforcement?
yes.
And this still frame that we're looking at from People's Proposed Exhibit 1, how is it you recognize this?
My front porch, my girlfriend's truck, and my car.
Right, so I see, just for the record, I see what looks like a sedan that is at the center bottom portion of the frame. Is that your Impala that you had referenced a moment ago?
Yes,
Initially, you just testified a second ago about a truck that I see what looks like a light or white in color truck, sort of middle left of the screen. Is that what you're referring to as your girlfriend's truck?
yes,
And then your porch, is that to the left side of the frame?
yes,
So you recognize this to be one of the camera angles of your surveillance from your residence at Pleasant Grove.
yes.
Then we'll switch now to a different file within People's Proposed 1. Do you recognize what's depicted here?
Yes.
And how is it you recognize this still image from this video?
My girlfriend's white pickup truck, my front porch, and silver car in the back.
So is this is this a camera that's on the porch area of your residence?
Yes,
And now your girlfriend's truck is more prominent in the frame
yes,
with your Impala back in 2023 in the background?
correct.
Your Honor, what we've seen, at least from the still images of these videos, these are all true, fair, and accurate, as you recall it.
Yes.
People move for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 1.
Any objection to people's proposed objection to people proposed exhibit 1, that being a video that's been indicated by the witness as a fair and accurate representation on that April 12th date, is that correct?
Correct, Judge.
Ms. Love.
I have no objection. I just wanted to make sure that we confirm this is April 12th.
Correct. So that's the early morning hours of April 12th. Is that correct pursuant to testimony?
And if you want, I can ask him, Mr. Moore, what we have depicted, is this footage from the early morning hours of April 12th, like we've been discussing?
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that understanding, People's Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may publish.
So I'm going to play for you, Trent, what's labeled on People's 1 as file name IMG_1468, okay? And I think this is the first one we looked at. Does that sound right?
Yes.
So I'm going to pause 12 seconds in. Can you describe what we've just witnessed on that portion of the video, please?
Me sitting in my car, the silver Impala up front, and then a car pulling in my driveway.
And did you, what did the car pulling in behind you do it just before it turned in? Did you notice?
Turn my headlights off.
Pause this part of the video at 19 seconds. What happened just before I paused this?
I realized that somebody pulled in behind me, so I got out of my car.
And then is somebody else starting to emerge from the other vehicle?
Yes.
Pausing at 45 seconds. What's going on now?
Not really sure what we're talking about, but talking about something.
Okay.
Me and Ben.
So where I paused it on this video, is it fair to say that the driver's side door to your Impala is open?
Yes.
And there's somebody standing sort of at the opening of that door?
Yes.
Are you saying that that is the defendant, Mr. Conley?
That is me first, like in the door, and then to the right of that would be him.
Okay, so this figure right here that I'm circling with my finger,
Yes, that's
who's that?
me.
And then this figure right here, who is that?
Ben.
Okay. Now, pausing at 58 seconds in the video, is a second individual walking up to the car
Yes.
that has emerged from that vehicle that pulled behind you.
Correct.
Pause at 1 minute and 42 seconds into this video. What have we witnessed on the video?
Me getting pulled to the car that pulled in behind me, and Ben going through my car right now.
Now, did something happen in order for this to result in you being put in the back of that other car?
Me being hit several times.
Is it fair to say some sort of altercation?
Yes.
Do you want this to happen?
No.
Do you want to be in the back of that other car?
No.
And at some point, Mr. Conley had a gun on you during this altercation.
Yes.
And I think he said where we paused the video, inside of your car is the defendant, Mr. Conley.
Correct.
I'm going to show you what on people's one file name IMG_1525. Pause at 18 seconds. Is this video a continuation of the previous video that we?
Yes.
All right. And what has occurred in between sort of the end of previous file and this file?
Everybody's been in the car and the car's left.
When you say the car, which one are we talking
The
about?
black one that pulled in behind me.
And where is that black car now positioned relative to your house or the street?
In the road.
Pausing at 31 seconds in. Where has that dark colored vehicle gone?
Down the street.
Are you inside still?
Yes.
And your car's still there?
Yes.
In fact, is it fair to say it looks like the dome light to your vehicle is still illuminated?
It is.
Your girlfriend's still inside the house?
She is.
It's fair to say at this point, being driven away in that car, you still don't want to be in that car.
Correct.
Where are you inside of that car?
In the back passenger seat.
On the seat?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me what happens once you're inside of that car.
I'm told to keep my head down and just continue to be. So,
Okay, describe that for me, please.
Ben being in the front passenger seat turned around and was hitting me with a gun. And the second person, individual in the back seat next to me was also punching me, as I was told to keep my head in the corner. So I couldn't see what was going on.
Okay, and I wanted to ask about that. You said keep your head down. So are you, when you say keep your head down, are you just simply looking down? Is your head between your legs? I think you said a second ago, your head's in the corner. Describe that for me.
Punched down, like, down low so I can't see out the windows or see.
Is it, if I were to ask, is it fair to say you're essentially staring at the floorboard?
Yes.
Is that
Correct.
fair?
Yes.
And then in that time, you're being assaulted?
Yes.
Specific to Mr. Conley, what was Mr. Conley doing?
Hitting me with a gun.
Okay, and how do you know that?
I seen him.
Okay, it's the same silver one that you
Correct.
referenced when outside.
Yes.
How'd that feel getting hit?
Not the best.
Okay. Did it feel like a hard object,
Yes.
heavy object?
Yes.
Where on your body was Mr. Conley hitting you with that gun?
On my mouth, nose, like face.
Face,
Top
head?
of the head, yes.
Okay. All right, so now you're in that dark colored vehicle that has driven you away from your house. Does it drive you to a different location?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how long? Can you estimate how long you were in that car?
Like 10 minutes.
Okay. Do you have any idea where you were being driven to?
No.
During the car ride, do you remember hearing any conversations or any statements specifically from Mr. Conley, Mr. Ben Conley?
Yes.
What?
He was on the phone at one point with somebody and told him to.
Objection, hearsay.
Response?
Your Honor, I asked, and I can certainly clarify, but my question was, did you hear any statements specifically as to this defendant, Mr. Conley? And so assuming, unless the court wants me to really be specific about it, these would be statements against party opponent. But again, I can certainly make sure I'm precise in that these are things that Mr. Ben Conley was saying.
All right, so with the understanding, there's a hearsay objection. I do believe that these are statements made from the defendant's perspective, but I don't know if I heard that. So I clarify that. If they are, then they'd fall under 801D, which is on hearsay as opposing party statements. But my preference would be just to clarify on that.
Very good. So I'm gonna back up just a second. Just generally speaking, as you're being driven away from your house, you hear talking.
Yes,
Okay. Now, I only want to know what this defendant, Ben Conley, said, okay? A moment ago, you said he was on the phone. Is that Mr. Ben Conley you heard on the phone?
yes.
Okay, did you see him on the phone or did you just recognize his
No,
voice?
I seen and recognized it.
All right, so I'm gonna stop you and make sure I'm clear on your answer. You saw him on the phone
Yes,
and then you also recognize his voice as speaking.
correct.
All right. Now, with that, what specifically do you recall hearing this defendant, Benjamin Conley, saying while you were riding in that car?
Something about plastic being put out on the floor so that blood wasn't splattered all over the place.
Okay,
That's really about it as far as the phone call conversation.
Okay. When you heard that, did you form the impression that was about you?
Yes,
And is this occurring while you are also being punched and hit with the gun?
correct.
Ultimately, did there come a point where that dark colored vehicle stopped somewhere?
Yes,
I think I asked you a second ago, but I'm not sure, but I want to make sure I'm clear. Did you know where you were?
no,
At any point as this is going on, did you ask to be driven somewhere else by Mr. Benjamin Conley and the other two individuals?
no,
Were you taken out of the car?
yes.
How did that, tell me everything you remember about that.
I was taken out of the car and told to hurry up, also with my head down still, and hurried inside.
Now, is that something that Mr. Conley is saying, Mr. Conley and others are saying,
Yes, Mr. Conley was saying this.
Mr. Ben
Yes.
Conley? Okay. Um, are you continually being hit at this point, or is that
Yeah.
stopped?
Objection, leading.
Continue.
So I'll allow you to rephrase the objections. The same.
You described assaults during the car ride. When you arrived to the location, did assaults continue?
Yes.
How?
As in,
The same way, different way?
oh, same way, just, yeah, not really.
And that, was that by Mr. Conley, not Mr. Conley?
Him and the other individual on the back seat.
All right. A moment ago, you said you were given instructions to keep your head down once you got out of the car. Did you go into some sort of structure?
Yes.
Do you remember anything about the structure?
It had like concrete steps up into it, and then there was like porch. And then inside where there's the main door, which led into like a kitchen. And then there was steps to the basement.
You remember anything about color?
I think it was like tannish color.
You remember how tall it was?
Probably 2-story.
Remember, you said there were steps to a porch. Do you remember, if I were to ask you how many steps, do you know?
3.
That door that you entered into can you describe where on the house it was?
In the front.
When you say front, what does that mean to you?
I don't know, front of the house, main door.
Does it face the road? Is it on the side of the house? Does it face a driveway, something else?
Face the road.
Do you remember if there was a driveway?
I don't.
Okay.
I believe we pulled like right up in the grass or something. Kind of right up in the road.
Okay. When you're taken inside, that structure, I think you described it as a house. Is that fair?
Yes.
Tell me what happened as that process was going, please.
Continue being assaulted, and then I was taken down to the basement.
So I'm gonna stop you there. Describe everything you remember about the basement.
It's empty, but you go down the stairs, and there's like a smaller room, and then in the back, there's a larger, wide open.
So the basement was divided into a couple different rooms.
Yeah, like first one would be like the laundry room, and then the other one was like a furnace and stuff.
Okay. Do you remember anything about what the basement looked like?
It wasn't finished, it was like concrete floor.
Now you said that there was what you described as a laundry room and a larger open room.
Correct.
What part of this basement did you go into?
The larger room.
What do you remember about that open area of the basement?
It's just like there was a furnace there, and then there was like an outside window, a small outside window.
Describe what you mean by that outside window.
Just a smaller window up top where you can see like ground level.
Okay.
I guess.
When you say small, what do you mean by that?
Probably like a 2 foot by 1 foot window, rectangular window. That had like a crack in it.
Okay. To your right, you've got a series of windows that are pretty clear. You can see directly outside.
Correct.
What was that? With that small window, is that similar to this, very clear, or was it more?
No, because it was like right at ground level, so you can see like the grass, but you can like see out of it.
You said there was a vent
Yeah.
within that window.
Yeah. So,
You know what? Were you able to tell what direction that window was facing?
not really.
Were you being forced down into that basement
Yes.
by Mr. Conley or himself individually, or one of the other guys individually, or were they all acting together?
Him and second.
Now, when you say him, are you referring to Mr. Ben Conley Jr.?
Yes.
And then you said the second individual, so this is the one we saw emerge from the car?
Correct.
So those two individuals were forcing you down into the basement?
Yes, the driver went and unlocked the door before, and then I actually put it down the road. But the other two individuals, yes.
All right. So you said the driver of the car unlocked the door. When you say door, are you referring to the
House door.
one to get inside?
Right.
When you got down into the basement, tell me everything that you remember happening down there, please.
I continued being assaulted and told to take off the clothes, and still continued to be assaulted, and then just later throwing my clothes back at me.
Where were you assaulted? Where on your body were you assaulted during this process?
All over. Head. Abdomen, and that's about it.
And is it still by the same two individuals, the defendant Ben Conley Jr. and that second person?
Correct.
Was anything taken from you when you were in the basement?
Yes.
Describe what was taken from
The
you.
belongings in my pockets, so money, and ID, cash app card. I don't know what else.
When you say money, we're talking cash?
Yes.
You said cash app card. What is a cash app card?
Banking, and mobile banking app.
Okay, so the card itself is like any other credit card?
Yes.
Sort of, is it like a loadable card?
Yeah.
Something that you could take into a store and swipe like a normal credit card?
Correct.
Did it have cash on it?
Yes.
May I approach this witness?
You may.
All right, Trent, I'm gonna show you what has been marked as people's proposed exhibits 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? Just look at those on your own, and then just look up to me when you're done. All right. People's proposed 2 through 6, are each one of those individual items a photograph?
Yes.
All right, and you recognize what's depicted in each one of these photographs?
Yes.
And are they true, fair, and accurate representations of what's captured in the photographs?
Yes.
People move for admission of people proposed exhibits 2 through 6.
Let's write that down.
2 through 6.
Which one's ours? This one?
Yeah, left hand side.
Those are all fair and accurate as taken to the morning of April 12th. Is that correct?
I didn't ask that, but I certainly can. Those photographs, are they taken at or near the time this happened, April 12th, 2023?
Yes.
Sorry, Judge, thank you.
With that understanding, any objection to the admission of people's exhibits 2 through 6 for purposes of preliminary examination this week? Ms. Love.
Can I just ask a few questions about proposed exhibit 6?
Absolutely. Vlad, you're on proposed exhibit 6.
This is proposed exhibit 6. You see that?
Yes.
And are you saying that this is the shirt that you were wearing that evening?
That was an outside sweater that I had on.
And you had it on when you were getting in the car?
Yes.
And then what exactly would this be?
Blood.
This is blood?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
All right. Any objection after voir dire of exhibit 6 to 2 through 6 being admitted for purposes of prelim, Ms. Love?
No objection.
Okay, without objection, 2 through 6 are admitted and may be published.
We're looking at here in people's 2,
Me.
and more specifically, what are we capturing here in this photograph?
My face.
Okay, tell me what about your face? I mean, I see your face here today. What about your face in this photograph is
Pretty beat up.
okay? Describe with your words the best you can.
Black eyes, blood, not bloody mouth, bloody nose.
Okay.
Swallowed up.
People's 3. What are we looking at in this photograph?
Me. My face also. Beat up, swallowed up.
Tell me about your shirt and clothing.
Blood on my shirt,
Where on your shirt?
chest.
On the
Middle
neckline?
chest, yes.
People's 4.
Side of my face with blood on my shirt as well. All around the neck, and then blood dripping down my.
And blood dripping down your head. Where is that? Is that emanating, starting from your hair or hairline?
Yes.
And this is people's 4 is left side of your face. Is that
Correct?
people's 5? What are we looking at here?
That would be again, my teeth broken from being hit.
So, these injuries that we've covered in people's 2 through 5, none of those existed when you first parked in your driveway in your Impala on April 12th, 2023. Correct. It wasn't until you were taken from, driven away, and inside of that structure that any of these happened. Correct. Specifically, even in your teeth.
Yes.
Some of these injuries still exist today.
Correct.
Teeth, for instance.
Yes.
And then Ms. Love sort of stole my thunder a bit on 6. But people 6 is your sweatshirt,
Correct.
and there's some blood staining on it.
Yes.
Where specifically?
Chest, center chest.
And then just below the neckline.
Yes.
I think you said your Cash App card was taken from you. Actually, I'm gonna keep going in the order of events, and then I'll circle back to a couple things. At some point, and I think you even testified a little bit ago, after being assaulted, there was a point where your clothing was essentially thrown back at you and you were ordered to get dressed.
Yes.
So as you sit here today, at some point this all ended.
Correct.
How did this all end?
I was getting my clothes back to get dressed, and I was picked up and taken towards the stairs again to go back up and outside.
By,
Ben and the second.
okay, and then what happened?
And then I was asked about money and because they had my Cash App card. So then, as in Ben, the second individual. So then, a third individual came from upstairs, downstairs, and was told to try to get the money off my Cash App card.
Who told that
By
third person?
Ben. and-
Okay.
Yes.
And did anything happen with your Cash App card?
I couldn't do the second step verification stuff because I didn't have a phone. So they couldn't get into it, but somehow they still managed to and bring it.
Okay.
About me now.
Were you, there was certainly a point, and I know this seems sort of an obvious setup, at some point you were taken back out of that structure.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I was taken upstairs, given a towel to clean up my face, all the blood. So it didn't look suspicious if anybody seen me from the house looking like that. And was also told to keep my head down and taken to the car.
Same car that you came in,
Yes,
okay? You get back in that car,
correct.
then what happened?
I am driven close to my house to a store.
Kroger?
Kroger, yes.
And then what happened at Kroger?
That's when my girlfriend picked me up.
Sam?
Yes.
And what happened after that?
I was driven back home by a Samantha.
Okay, did there come a point where you ultimately went to a hospital?
Yes.
And in fact, for instance, people's 2 through 6, those photographs of your injuries, were those photographs taken at a hospital?
Correct.
And how did you get to the hospital? Did you go in an ambulance, some way else?
No, Sam took me.
Now, you said when you first got to that structure, some items were taken from you. I think you said your phone, money, something else, Cash App card,
And
keys, car keys.
Right.
When you were ultimately picked up by Sam, your girlfriend, had your cash been returned to you?
no,
What about your phone?
No.
Keys?
no,
Cash App card.
no.
And then you said, more specifically with the card, the contents of the card, I mean, the physical card wasn't given back to you.
Correct.
But the money associated with the card was also taken by this third person at the direction of Mr. Conley and the second individual.
Correct.
So in a digital sense, additional money was taken.
Yes.
And that all occurred within that structure.
Yes.
And as this was all going on, was Ben Conley Jr., was he still armed with a weapon?
Yes.
Was he armed with a weapon sort of from beginning to end?
Correct.
And any other weapon beyond what you described as that silver pistol?
No.
So that was the only weapon that Mr. Conley had.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination, Ms. Lowe.
Thank you. Okay, if I call you Trent? All right. So you stated that you returned to your home on Pleasant Grove the morning of April 12th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
Between 4 and 5 is when you think you arrived?
Yeah.
And why do you think it was between 4 and 5 a.m.?
Just given the time that I was picked up and how long it approximately took, and that the sun is coming up.
Okay, and so where were you coming from?
The house I was in. Not entirely sure where that is.
Wait. The house that you were returning to your home from was the same house they took you to?
No, I was.
Where were you at
Or
before you pulled into your driveway?
Before I was, as in me, before I got picked up or afterwards?
Before you were picked up?
Friend's house.
Correct. Who, what friend?
Keeper.
And how do you know him?
No, I just have known him for time, I guess.
And was there any kind of bad blood that happened that resulted in you leaving Kiefer's house that morning?
No.
Did you have any indication that somebody was following you?
No.
How long do you think that you sat in that front or in your driveway before the other car pulled in?
Maybe a minute or two.
Okay, and these cameras that are at your house, those are from Xfinity Mobile?
Correct.
Do they have a way to have a timestamp on them?
Possibly, but they didn't know.
So when you go back to look at them, if you're at home today, you want to know who was driving by your house while you were here in court. How do you go to the exact time that you want to go to?
There's a timeline, but it's separate from the actual video. So it'd be below the video, so you can scroll through the, just like YouTube would be.
All right, and would you agree that at some point in time, you sent a screenshot to the detectives that showed the timestamp from that morning?
Yes. My girlfriend did.
Photos here. And there was a timestamp from when you pulled in and then also from when the other vehicle was in the driveway with you.
Yes.
And so you were sitting in your front seat and your dome lights on. What are you doing inside your car?
Just gathering my stuff to go inside.
And so what types of things were you putting them in your pocket?
Possibly, yes.
Okay, so you had your phone, your keys,
Yes.
your Cash App card. Was there anything else in your pocket?
I had a razor knife, but I was not taken. I was left there.
Can I clarify? When you say left there, what do you mean?
At my house,
All right,
in
thank
the,
Left in the car.
okay, yes, on the back of it, I think it was on the trunk.
So when the SUV pulls in, I'm pretty sure that video was in real time. You get out of the car pretty quickly, correct?
Yes,
And then it appears that you actually walk towards the car, and it's allegedly Mr. Connolly that is stepping out from the front passenger seat, correct? And he actually walks right past you, right?
yes,
And so, do you remember what the conversation was between you and him at that time?
no, not entirely,
Was it aggressive?
not like at first, no,
So you,
until we got up to my car and then turned aggressive,
and you know Mr. Connolly,
yes,
so it wouldn't be abnormal for him to be at your house.
kind of,
And so Mr. Connolly comes up to your car. Do you think, is your car off and the dome light is just on?
yes,
Okay. Does he say what he's looking for in there?
no,
Were you aware of that you owed anybody any money or anything at that time?
no,
Did they mention anything that they were looking for?
no,
So there was nothing said at that point that would lead you to believe that they were there for any harm.
other than just the attitude of them, and you can just tell.
So a second person gets out of the car from the back driver's side.
Yes.
And who was that?
I have never seen him before at the time.
You've never seen Aaron before?
Correct.
Before that day?
Right.
Okay. So who was the second person?
Would be the one that came out of the passenger side front.
Yep, so he came
Aaron
out
being
first.
Yeah, the driver's side rear.
And then you actually end up going and approaching your driver's side door with Ben, correct?
Yes,
And at that point, I think you said the second guy walks up on you and sucker punches you.
correct.
And you can see that in the video,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then you stated that as the guy was walking up on you, you seen a gun in Ben's pocket.
Correct.
And you said that he was holding it in his sweater pocket, correct?
Jacket, zip up, yes.
Okay, were you able to see what he was wearing in that video?
Yes.
I don't know, is there a way for me to put that back up?
All
there?
right, I'll put it up for you. One second.
Well, that's getting up there. I want to clarify. So you just said, yeah, his zip up. So are you saying he was wearing a hooded sweatshirt?
It was like a leather jacket, like a sports jacket, but like zip up.
And so you're saying that the gun is in the jacket pocket?
Yes.
Okay.
Where do you want it?
Yeah, it was at 18 seconds that you had stopped it.
Okay.
And then I just kind of want to play it forward for when we get up next to the car. Can you pause it right there? So at this point, you're kind of almost to the passenger door of the other car, correct?
Yes.
And so do you know that that's Ben right now?
No, not until he got out, because in the other video you can hear it better, but the exhaust was a louder exhaust, so I thought it was a different round, or a round. But as I walked up to the vehicle and he got out, I realized it wasn't what I thought it was.
Okay, and so right now, you're both outside of the vehicle next to the car, right?
Yes.
And so at what point did you realize that it was him?
When he got out.
So right now you know that it's him.
Yes.
And then you see how there's that little light right there? It almost like looks down at the person's chin.
Yes.
When the video keeps moving, I can't really tell what it is. Do you know what's in his mouth? Is it a
No,
flashlight?
I don't recall.
Okay, if you want to play it some more, and then when they come back up, you can you see this light that's by his mouth.
Yes.
Now seeing it right there, do you remember what that is?
No.
Okay. And then you see this jacket right here. So you two are still standing here by your car and there is not any kind of assaultive anything yet.
Correct.
And then are you aware that there are other people in the car?
No.
And
Other
so,
than a driver.
okay, but you don't know who the driver is right then,
No.
right? And so you don't even think that this is an abnormal thing at this moment in the video
It was definitely weird.
because of the time of day?
Yeah, and he's never been to my house.
He's never been to Sam's house?
No, maybe once before, but no. It wasn't somebody that just came over.
Okay, so I'm gonna have him play it again, and I want you to tell me when you believe it is that you get punched. Okay, and so right now, the person that is punching you, is that Mr. Connolly?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that Ben Connolly Jr.?
No.
All right. And do you have any recollection of when, for example, your teeth were chipped?
And that would have been at the house, not my house, the house I was in the basement.
All right, so you're sucker punched right here. And then you said that you continue to get punched right here,
Yes.
correct? And do you see the person that is claimed to be Mr. Connolly over here?
Correct.
And so are you saying that in this moment, you already believe that there's a gun in his pocket?
No, before this moment.
Before this moment?
Yes.
What made you think at this point that there was a gun?
You can kind of hear it and just tell like the aggressiveness in his voice, and he like leans in. You can tell, like, I look, turn around, and I mean, you can just kind of tell. You can kind of tell that I could tell that, yeah. As the second individual that I was.
So it's not in, you're saying that you believe that the gun is in his outside jacket pocket,
Correct.
and you were able to see through the pocket, through the darkness, that it was a silver gun.
I could kind of see, like, it wasn't like all the way out, but like you could just see it in his right pocket. Yes.
And so if you press play again, you're continued to be assaulted right here, correct? And that's still not Ben Connolly, correct? So all in the driveway right here, Mr. Connolly hasn't succumbed to any of those punches.
I don't think so.
And then this is where you get taken to the car, correct? And that's not being done by Mr. Connolly at all,
Correct.
Ben Connolly.
Correct.
And you get put in the back driver's side.
Yes.
And this has sound, correct?
Correct.
Is there a reason why you weren't screaming, I don't want to go, or saying help?
Yeah, I just don't scream like that.
Did you think that you were in danger at that point?
Well, yeah.
All right, so when you are put into the car, that is by the second person that is not Ben Connolly.
Correct.
When you are punched while at your home on Pleasant Grove in the driveway, none of that occurs by Mr. Ben Connolly. Correct?
Not correct.
And then when you get put into the vehicle to be transported to another, or wherever they were going to take you, that wasn't done by Ben Connolly either.
Correct.
In fact, Mr. Connolly was in your vehicle at that time.
Yes.
And you noticed that there was still that item in his mouth at that point.
Correct.
And you would agree that that was in his mouth the entire time?
I'm not sure about in his mouth, but I mean, it could be on the smack good,
And on direct, you were asked, was Ben saying anything to you? And you said, not really.
You can kind of hear it in the video even, but I don't really recall exactly what I said. But
So there was nothing that he said to you that would have led you to believe that you were in danger by him.
yeah, you can hear it in the video.
You're what?
Him saying, I don't recall exactly what it was said, but you can hear it in the video. So the things are being said.
So do you know what you guys were arguing over?
No, I don't think I was arguing about anything.
Okay. And so you would agree that that entire situation that was just shown, I think it was 1 minute and 50 some seconds total. And that was the entire, they get out of the car, you get in their car, and then the next video is just basically them pulling in the driveway, or pulling out of the driveway.
Yes.
Okay. And so if I told you that the timestamp, there's so many files in here. If I told you the timestamp that I seen was 5:36 a.m., would that sound correct to you?
Yes.
All right. And so do you still think that you arrived at your house between 4 and 5?
What time did you say?
The timestamp says 5:36 a.m.
5:36 a.m. So no, I didn't get back to 5.
So do you change your mind about how long you were sitting in your car?
Well, I mean, 5:36 and 5 o'clock. I mean, those rough estimates. So. No,
But I think 36 minutes and 1 to 2 minutes are extremely different.
My dome light was on because I just had opened my door at the beginning of the video to get out. So.
Okay. So you weren't sitting in the driveway for an hour?
No.
All right. I already asked you that. All right, so when the second person gets out of the car, and then he's also the one that takes you to your car. You said that you had never met Aaron Connolly at that point.
Right.
Did you know of Aaron Connolly?
No.
You've never heard of him, weren't aware he was in town,
No.
didn't hang out with him within the days before? Okay. So at what point do you understand who he is?
Later on, not during the whole incident, but later on. Well, actually, I guess at the house because somebody called him by his name or something, but I still didn't know who it was.
All right, so you stated that you were put in the back passenger seat. So I just want to clarify, when you were put in the vehicle, at least from that video, you were put in on the driver's side. Did you have to scooch all the way over?
Yes.
Or did you misspeak?
No, I had to go all the way over.
So during the drive to this house on Magnolia, which you later found out is where you were, you're sitting behind Ben Connolly in the passenger seat.
Correct.
Are you buckled? Okay, and so when you're saying that you were told to keep your head down, you're not like your body isn't like on the floorboard or anything like that. You're more or less meaning don't look out the windows.
Like I was like right at the seatbelt, like The rear door handle would be here. My head was like right there, I guess, in the corner.
All right, and you said that you were continually pistol whipped while you were in the car?
Correct.
Did, who we now know to be Aaron, did Aaron have a pistol?
No.
So the only pistol that you saw was allegedly in Ben's hand?
Correct.
Okay, and you're saying that he was hitting you with that pistol on the drive to Magnolia?
Correct.
And so he would have been turned around completely in the passenger seat?
Correct.
And then you said that you had your head down, right?
Yes.
And then I put quotation marks, you said you were staring at the floorboard. So how were you aware of who was the person that was hitting you?
I mean, I looked up and there was only one other person next to me. That's not what I was thinking.
So you're saying that Aaron wasn't assaulting you in the back seat at all?
From the side, but not from the front.
Okay, and when you were being pistol whipped, I'm assuming that you're being hit in the head?
Correct.
And that is with a metal object?
Yes.
Or do you know if it was metal? I guess some are made out of
Yes.
hard plastic.
Yeah.
Did it feel metal?
Yeah.
All right. And so when we see your facial injuries, let's see, it was exhibit 2 is your face. And then we also have exhibit 3, which is like the neck picture where you have the gray t-shirt on. Is there any of the injuries in these 2 photos that you can pinpoint were the result of being hit with a pistol?
My teeth.
Your teeth?
Yes.
That happened in the car?
No.
That would be exhibit 5. Thanks, Andrew. If you want to grab them. Exhibit 5 is the one that shows your teeth, I believe.
Yes.
And you know with certainty that it was Ben Connolly who had the object in his hand at the time that your teeth were broken.
Yes.
Were you being kicked?
Yes.
Were you being punched?
Correct.
Were you being slapped?
I don't know about slap.
Okay. And then you said that you had to strip down and they went through your belongings, correct?
Correct.
And the whole time they also were assaulting you.
Correct.
So who was actually looking through your stuff if you were continuing to be assaulted?
Really, I had to turn my pockets inside out and then stuff in my pockets and thrown to the side or whatever. And then,
So who was looking through your stuff?
nobody necessarily looked through my stuff because, like I said, I pull my pockets out, so my stuff was already.
So nobody was taking any of your belongings?
Yeah. Nobody was taking them out of my pockets. No,
They fell on the floor.
I was told to turn my pockets inside out, which they came out of my pocket and was later picked up off the floor.
Okay, do you know who was picking it up?
Then,
And this is still while he has a gun in his hand?
yes,
And nobody else in the room had a gun at any time?
correct.
How many other people were there at the Magnolia house?
No idea.
Okay, so when you get there, you said that the driver was the person who had the keys to the house?
Yes,
Did you know who the driver was?
no,
As of right now, do you know who the driver was?
yes.
And who was that?
Alvin,
Alvin? And Alvin's actually one of your good friends, right?
not a good friend, but
You knew him before that night,
yes,
but you didn't know who was driving?
correct. They had their foot up the whole time.
Would you know his voice if you heard his voice?
Possibly,
Okay, and so you said that a phone call was made but you didn't, you only heard it.
No, I seen it too.
Okay.
I was told to keep my head down, but I still looked up. So,
Okay, so there is the driver, Ben, Aaron, you, so those 4 people.
correct.
You go into this house, and is there already other human beings at all at that house when you arrive?
Nobody else.
So you said that at some point a 3rd person came downstairs.
Correct.
Was that the driver?
No.
So there was somebody at the house.
Yes.
Who was that?
Julia.
Julia. How do you know Julia?
Another acquaintance.
And at any other point in the night, did you see any other person besides Julia there?
No.
And so you said that you heard Mr. Connolly talking on the phone and that he was telling someone. Were you saying someone to be facetious, or do you know who he was talking to?
I'd have, at the time, I had no idea who it was.
But you knew it was somebody at the home you were going to.
I'd have to imagine. Yes.
Okay. And you said that he told them to that they needed to put plastic on the floor so that blood did not get all over the place.
Correct.
And when you got there and were led down to the basement, did you see plastic set up anywhere?
No.
And there was never any kind of direct reference that that blood was pertaining to you at all.
No.
Okay. It was more or less just a scary statement.
Yeah.
All right. You said that you remember walking up to the house and that there was concrete steps.
Yes.
Do you still believe that the steps were concrete?
I guess because there was a whole bunch going on at the time, I don't necessarily remember exactly.
Okay,
It was quite some time ago.
fair. So you said there was a house, concrete steps, porch, kitchen, basement, correct?
One more time.
You come up to the house. You walked up 3 concrete steps onto a porch, into the kitchen, and then to the basement.
Yes.
That's all. There's nothing in between.
Like I said, I don't necessarily remember.
Okay, and you didn't have a blindfold or anything on.
No, but just my head's up.
Okay, so did you recognize the street?
No.
At one point, didn't you tell investigators or one of the detectives that they were driving in circles?
I don't know about that.
Okay. Next, we talked about the window downstairs. You said that there was a vent in the window.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the windows at the end of unfinished basement.
Okay, and in the photos of the house, I believe there was a curtain. Was that part of?
I not know.
Okay, I'll move on from there. You said that the window was level with the grass. What do you mean by that?
So we were downstairs, so the window was down.
So like the bottom of the window and is at the grass, and then you can see.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not an egress window. Like one you can escape out of if you were trapped in a basement. Okay, you were asked if you were forced into the basement and you said yes. I'm assuming there was lots of stairs going down to a basement.
Yes.
And did you successfully walk down them or were?
I wasn't picked up and carried down there.
So you walked down the stairs, they just told you to go down there.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how Elvin got the keys to the house? Elvin's a female or a male, correct? Was he in a relationship with Julia at that point?
I believe so.
If you can grab those photos, I want to go back to this question. If you go to exhibit number 2, which would be your face, or number 3, which is technically labeled the chin, is there a way that you can pinpoint anything besides your teeth that would have been a result of being hit with the pistol?
Not necessarily, maybe it's a big piece right here on top of my forehead.
Okay, and are you certain that all of that was a result of Ben Connolly, or was it a group effort of everyone?
It was a group effort, but I remember him taking this one.
Do you remember like the teeth falling into your mouth? Like,
Yes.
okay, do you think you swallowed them?
Uh,
Okay, but you don't think you were left them in the basement?
Not, yeah.
And then if we can go back to exhibit number 6, the sweater. You said that when you were picked up from Kroger, that your girlfriend Sam drove you home, correct?
Correct.
And then Sam later drives you to the hospital. How long do you think that you were at your home?
I'm not entirely sure on that. Maybe
Can you give me like 5 minutes or 2 hours
maybe
or?
an hour.
Okay, and what did you guys do during that time?
Mm, yes,
About what had happened?
yes,
Did you discuss whether you were going to call the police?
no,
Okay, so you go to the hospital without calling the police.
correct,
And those photos that are exhibits 2 through 6 are all photos that were taken at the hospital, correct?
Correct.
And so specifically exhibit 4, where you have the dried blood down your face. Didn't you say that they gave you a towel to wipe the blood off?
yes,
And then you notice that you have blood on your shirt in exhibit 3 on the gray shirt,
yes,
and that's more of a dark red.
correct.
And so were you continuing to bleed after the sweater was off, or did that soak through? Could you elaborate on that?
Possibly both.
Did you ever have a bloody nose, do you think?
Yeah, you can see the blood in this. Two.
And so that big spot on the front of exhibit number 6, that all came from that evening.
Yes,
And did you bring that with you to the hospital, or did you wear it to the hospital?
I believe I had it on again because at some point I had to take it off.
Okay, and did you give them consent to test your items for blood?
Yes,
And you gave them a sample, a buccal sample of your own as well to compare? All right, and are you aware that the reports actually exclude Mr. Connolly as being a contributor?
He doesn't have objection, he has no personal knowledge. Well, I guess I'll say this, there's no foundation that he has personal knowledge of that.
Only, if you don't know, you don't know. You to answer that question personally.
yeah, I have no idea.
You've never seen the results before?
No.
Well, we stipulated them as exhibits, so.
So we'll show the witness exhibits 13 and 14.
I'm sorry?
Are those exhibits 13 and 14? And after that, we're going to adjourn for the day.
Okay, I'm almost done. So if you want to take a look at that. Would you agree that these appear to be the results that include yourself, Mr. Ben Connolly, and as well as Aaron Connolly?
Again, if he has personal knowledge.
Well, if you don't have personal knowledge, you've got the reports in front of you. I get, have those been admitted?
They have.
Okay.
Did you say they were admitted in another? Oh, okay. Sorry, I was thinking that he had seen these at the other hearing. So, okay, I'll move on.
I don't think he's seen those at all.
Judge, I would say, and Ms. Love wasn't here.
Right.
The lab analysis wasn't complete the first time he testified. So these have come into existence in between first time he testified and today.
Okay,
And I would say as a matter of course, I personally, and I don't think the detectives with any agency will then show lab analysis results to witnesses.
With that clarification, because it's been some time since we had the first prelim and then now.
right, and I wasn't there, so.
Right.
There, you said that you were ordered to get dressed, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember who specifically told you to get dressed?
No.
And then you said you were walked up the stairs?
Yes.
Like, what do you mean by that? Forcefully, or they told you to go up there and you walked,
I guess forcefully and told.
but you wanted to leave the basement, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And then you said that you were asked about money by a third person and that she came down into the basement. So did that happen prior to you being forced upstairs?
The third person that asked me about money, but yes, I have to.
Okay, and that third person being Julia.
Yeah.
So Julia is the one that made the transaction on Cash App from your Cash App card.
Yeah, however it happened.
Okay, and do you remember that there was something about a prior authorization that had to be done
Yes.
and that you didn't have your cell phone,
Correct.
so that couldn't be accomplished?
Correct.
And so is it your testimony today that all of that money was taken?
Yes.
Okay, do you know who it went to?
Some cleaning company.
Would you say so?
Some cleaning company.
Okay.
So there's nothing that would indicate that any of that money from the Cash App card was taken by Ben Connolly.
He was part of the conversation, getting Julia down there too. With the money. But
you
did
said-
he take it out there himself?
But didn't, you just said that you couldn't get the prior authorization to go through, right?
Correct.
And so it didn't go through that evening.
Not the, yeah, it did. I don't know how it did or how it did it.
But when you later looked at your Cash App history, it wasn't being sent to Benjamin Connolly.
Correct.
Did you lose consciousness at all?
No.
I have no further questions for him.
Any redirect, Mr. Stevens?
I'm gonna take you all the way back to when you're in your driveway. Did you see the gun before or after you were punched for the first time? And the circumstances of you sitting in your driveway and a car driving up behind you, turning off its lights. How did that whole circumstance make you feel?
At first, not No, because I heard the exhaust and I thought it was a friend's car. that I
Okay.
knew. And
But
it
then
wasn't
when you-
abnormal for them to stop over,
Okay, but then when you got out and saw that it was Benjamin Conley,
the different car,
and then, okay, so at that point, when you saw it was Benjamin Conley and then a couple other people, how did your feelings about the circumstance change?
confused.
Worried?
Yes. Not until the second person, or yeah, not until I seen the gun,
Was it unusual?
yes.
And then one thing I just want to clarify, Ms. Love asked you about Julia. When you were brought to that structure, when you first arrived, do you know if she was there?
No,
So you have no idea if she was there already, just didn't see her, or maybe she arrived later.
I have no idea.
Okay, but at some point while you were at that structure you were driven to, you did in fact see Julia at that place.
Yes, coming down the stairs.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
May this witness be excused from the people, Mr. Stevens?
Without objection from the people.
Ms. Love,
Can I ask one question?
you can ask one question, yes.
Were you aware that it was Julia that was driving you to Kroger?
Yes.
That was my only question.
Thank you. Any other questions, or may this witness be excused? Ms. Love?
He can.
All right. Witness, thank you for your appearance. You're excused today. And Mr. Stevens, my assumption is you're going to call it additional witnesses.
I was gonna call the detective,
Um,
but I understand the time constraints.
Yeah, there are some time constraints. Not only that, we're running into the 5 o'clock, so with that understand,
I guess if I could have just a minute, maybe not.
yeah, you can talk to counsel if you choose to. None of it's your fault.
I said, that's always the rule.
Judge, I think, and I'll put this on the record,
All right.
in speaking with Miss Love, largely what I was intending to do with Detective McGonigal and the remainder of my exhibits that I have not admitted is essentially lay out what I believe we're going to reach by way of stipulation. In that, as this court has heard, Mr. Moore did not know the secondary place that he was driven to, where a portion or additional aspects of the charged offenses occurred. I was going to establish that with the detective, but I think we've reached the stipulation that that occurred at 300 North Magnolia, which is in the city of Lansing, Ingham County.
That's the second address.
Correct. And I wanted that because essentially I want my complaint information to reflect that these offenses are occurring at these two addresses in some form.
All
Assuming that is okay with Ms. Love, and I've stated that correctly, I think we can not call the next detective, not admit the remaining exhibits, which the ones that I haven't already admitted, and then at which point I'm prepared to rest and move for binding.
All right. Ms. Love, in relation to the second address, there's been some indication of that those relate to the second part of the complaint. I guess that's a better way of saying it. And then that would make a determination whether we call the next witness, probably next time. So we'd have to Miss Love, did you want to make a record?
I am completely comfortable stipulating that that house on Magnolia Street is in Ingham County, and that the entire morning that we know of, it was encompassed in Ingham County.
All right. And the Magnolia address is in the city of Lansing.
Correct.
All right. With that understanding, Mr. Stevens, the stipulation to that address of Magnolia in the city of Lansing. Are you prepared to move for bind over?
I am, Judge, thank you.
And all right, and then I'll give the opportunity to the defense to respond. Motion for bind over, Mr. Stevens.
Judge, I'm going to be very quick. Based on the testimony of really just Mr. Moore alone, there's record evidence of each charged offense at either beginning at or completing at these two various addresses. As it relates to count one, unlawful imprisonment, that largely starts at and continues, starts at the Pleasant Grove address and continues to Magnolia. The assault with intent to rob while armed, count two, is largely in the vehicle and at Magnolia. Same with count three. Count four, the CCW offense largely is at the Pleasant Grove address. Count five continues, it starts and continues through that sort of the sequence of events. And then with 6 through 8, those, as I know the court is aware, those sort of follow underlying charges. I will say, just by way of context, even though they've already been admitted, the laboratory reports sort of lose their luster a bit if the court were to evaluate those exhibits, because while I'm cutting out some of what the detective was going to offer, what you'll read as it relates specifically to People's 14 is that blood recovered. I know the court doesn't really have an idea of where it was recovered from, but it actually matches the victim, Mr. Moore. But nevertheless, based on the testimony and the record evidence, the people believe that, at least for the probable cause standard, this matter should be bound over as charged with the one amendment, that being the Magnolia address.
All right, and I will clarify, Miss Love, response from the defense on the motion for bind over.
Can I ask one question first, just to Mr.
Sure.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. All right. So as far as all of the 8 counts go, starting with count 1, the unlawful imprisonment. I do understand that there is an ongoing suggestion of restraint, but we were able to actually see the live footage of them coming up on him. There was not any part of Mr. Ben Connolly that was putting Mr. Moore in the car. He actually was in Mr. Moore's car at the time that he was being put in that car. And so there are a few, he had to have knowingly restrained another person. I don't know that we have a lot of evidence that he physically restrained him outside of the presence that potentially there was a weapon there, but I don't also believe that the weapon was being used or we have any testimony that it was being used as a restraint mechanism for intimidation, maybe, but I don't believe that it was proven that it was being used for restraining a person. As far as count 2, assault with intent to rob. Similarly here, we were told that there were items that were taken from Mr. Moore, but none of those were pinpointed to be taken by Benjamin Connolly. I think the only person that we were able to actually determine that was able to get some type of benefit from Mr. Connolly was some cleaning company. And that's not Mr. Connolly, Benjamin Connolly. Also, he would have had to intended to commit the robbery. And it, again, doesn't sound like that was the intention here. It sounds like they had some kind of beef with them and were trying to prove a point. And so, again, I'm not denying that an assault may have occurred, but I don't believe that it was with the intent to rob. As far as count 2 goes, for assault GBH. This one, I'm having a hard time with the way that it's charged, because we have assault with intent to rob, which requires him to intend to rob the person, but then count 3 is assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. And so we're asking the court to make two determinations on two different fairly harsh felonies that Mr. Connolly allegedly intended to commit that day. He did have his teeth busted, but as far as extending to an injury that would amount to slightly less than murder, I don't know that we're there. However, it is a lower burden here. So I understand the weight that's going to go to that. As far as count 4 and count 5, we've already stipulated that Mr. Connolly was a felon at the time. And we have the one witness who is alleging that Mr. Connolly had a pistol. So as far as those counts go, I will leave that in the court's discretion. Obviously, we'll be able to present other evidence against that position at trial. But I don't believe that we have everything on counts 1, 2, or 3.
Thank you. Any response, Mr. Stevens?
I will point out, count 1 is charged under a few different theories. It's not simply by means of a weapon, but I think what I find interesting is about Mr. Moore's testimony is that no matter how or who was asking the question as to who was committing or involved in committing these crimes against him, it was always Ben Conley and the others. Everything was a concerted effort. In fact, I think Ms. Love even asked at some point, was it all together? And to which Mr. Moore had said yes. And so almost from beginning to end, it was a concerted effort. Mr. Conley starts